This week's Torah portion covers Exodus 6:2 to 9:35. The Parashah is called Vayera, which means "and I appeared," the first word spoken to Moses in the text. In Vayera, the story of the Exodus begins. Plagues hit the Egyptians in full force. Pharaoh knew the names of many false gods, but the one true God was a mystery to him. Through a series of pestilence, blood, darkness, death, and disease, Yahweh shows himself greater than any other imaginable power. The plague shook and devastated Egypt, and Egypt only. This was meant as a blow to the gut of Egypt's pantheon of gods and goddesses who were thought to be territorial, strongest in the land that they were worshipped. Exodus is the most supernatural book in the Hebrew Bible, but is also the climax, the pinnacle of Israel's story. Until now, the patriarchs learned of God's covenant promises through quiet acts like nighttime wrestling, angelic visitations at the door of a tent, or through firm convictions of conscience and clear revelations. But now the birth pangs grow sharp. The unbreakable imperial Egyptians require unprecedented signs and punishments that go beyond the explainable. Still, in all of this, God did not open up the heavens and directly order Pharaoh to let his people go. That message was repeatedly given only through Moses, the intermediary chosen by God. Unlike God's selection of Abraham, who the Bible gives no real backstory, we know why Moses was chosen. Exodus selects specific moments in the Moses biography to present his resume. Moses was a defender of justice. His every instinct pushed him to fight against oppression. 3 times we witness him intervening on the part of the weak. First, he avenged the death of a Hebrew slave by killing the slave master. He tried to intervene and stop a physical fight between 2 Hebrew slaves. And when he fled to Midian to escape Pharaoh's retaliation, he defended Jethro's daughters against greedy shepherds. We see in this last episode that Moses does not only intervene on behalf of Hebrews, but he stands up to bullies in defense of non-Hebrews as well. In a matter of 8 verses, Moses checks all the boxes for God's chosen messenger. Defender of the weak, friend of the slave, mediator between the people. In short, Moses was a revolutionary. Moses does not even stop his fight for justice when it comes to God. In Exodus 5:22, Moses challenges God, "Why have you brought trouble on your people? I went to speak with Pharaoh, but you have not rescued your people at all." God responds to Moses in absolute terms. He tells Moses, he has heard the cries and the groans of the Hebrews. He has remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He promises to lift his mighty arm and set the people free from Egypt. But when Moses delivers this promise to the Hebrews, the Bible says they remain obstinate in their destitution. It says they would not listen to him, Moses, because their spirit had been broken by their cruel slavery. And there lies the last reason for Moses' divine selection. He was a Hebrew, but he was raised in the house of Pharaoh. He never tasted the bitterness of slavery. His spirit was not killed by oppression. Rabbi Joseph Telushkin says that because Moses was never a slave, he had a different self-image than his kinsmen. He was sensitive to injustice, and he retained the will to fight it. It would take the rest of his Hebrew brothers 40 years to shake the slave mentality and think like a free people. But that is next week's Torah portion. Until then, Shabbat Shalom.